Hello and welcome to this edition of NASCAR's Almost Champions, Davey Allison. David Carl Allison, the oldest of four children of Bobby and Judy Allison, was born in Hollywood, Florida, but moved to Hueytown, Alabama when he was a child. Growing up, Davey participated in athletics, but once he graduated high school, Allison began working for his father, the legendary Bobby Allison's Cup Series team. While also working for his father, he and his, quote, Peach Fuzz gang built a Chevy Nova race car. Davey began racing in 1979 at Birmingham International Raceway. He even won in his sixth start at the track, becoming a regular winner at the track. In 1980, Davey made his ARCA Series debut, driving for his father's Bobby Allison Motorsports, number 11, AMC. Davey made one start at Michigan, finishing 14th. In 81, he attempted the ARCA race at Talladega, but he DNQ'd. For 82, Davey returned to the ARCA Series in his father's number 12 Pontiac, running the race at Daytona that 1982 season, finishing 18th. Then running the other superspeedway race that 82 ARCA Series season at Talladega in a number 23 for Bobby Allison Motorsports. In 1983, Davey makes two starts for Sim Brothers Racing, his number 23 Pontiac, at the season opener at Daytona and in the fall at Talladega, finishing 34th and leading the most laps on his way to victory lane at Talladega. Earlier in the season, he made his first career ARCA Series. He scored his first career ARCA Series victory in the spring, also leading the most laps as well, after winning the pole for the first time in his young ARCA Series career. Davey also finished second at Pocono and fourth at Milwaukee, both in the Bobby Allison Motorsports number 22 Pontiac. He did make his Busch Series debut, driving a number 23 Bobby Allison Motorsports Pontiac. They attempted 5 races in 83, qualifying for 4 events, DNQing the season opener at Daytona. His best finish was 4th in the fall at Darlington. Overall, they scored 1 top 5 finish and 3 top 10s in 4 starts. For the 1984 season, Allison was behind the wheel of the Allison Racing number 23 Buick, full-time. They won 4 poles, both Talladega races, Atlanta in the spring, and LCS. His best finish was first 3 times, in the spring at Atlanta, and Talladega, and MGR in the fall. Overall, in 14 starts, they scored 4 poles, 3 wins, 8 top 5s, and 9 top 10s, finishing the 1984 ARCA Series season 3rd in final points. In the Busch Series, Davey ran several races for his father, Bobby Allison Motorsports, number 23 Pontiac, making 7 starts throughout the 1984 Busch Series season. His best finish was 4th in the spring at Dover. Overall, they scored 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s. In 1985, Davey ran another full-time season in the ARCA Series in the Miller American Racing number 23 Buick. His best finish was 1st twice, in the spring in Atlanta and Talladega. Overall, they scored 0 poles, 2 wins, 6 top 5s, and 8 top 10s in 13 starts. They finished 3rd in points. Again, he made a few starts in his father, Bobby Allison Motorsports, number 23 Pontiac. This season, he made 5 starts. His best finish was 7th in the spring at Darlington, actually, this season. Overall, this was the only top 10 that they would score in 1985 in the Busch Series. Allison attempted the first 2 Cup Series races in the number 77 Branch Reagan Racing number 77 Chevrolet. Later in the season, he got an opportunity to drive Hoss Ellington's number 1 Chevy. He made 3 starts. His best finish was 10th in the fall at Talladega. That following season, he made 6 attempts behind the wheel of the number 95 Chevy for Sadler Brothers Racing Team. They attempted 6 races, only qualifying for 4 events. His best finish in the number 95 was 12th in the spring at Richmond. In the summer, Davey filled in for his close friend Neil Bonnet in the number 12 Budweiser Chevy in the Cup Series, starting and finishing 7th in the summer at Talladega. Now, in the Busch Series, he made 13 collective starts driving for 3 different teams. Davey made 6 starts for the number 95 Buick for Sadler Brothers Racing. His best finish was 3rd in the spring at Charlotte. He made 5 starts for the number 7 for Whitaker Racing. His best finish was in the fall at Bristol, 5th. Then he made 2 starts for his Allison Racing number 28 Buick. His best start was 1st in the fall at Rockingham. His best finish was 2nd, also in the fall at Rockingham. Overall, Allison scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 4 top 5s, and 5 top 10s. Allison ran his final ARCA Series race in 1986 for Reet Racing in their number 75 Chevrolet at Talladega, finishing 2nd. Then, that following season, Allison was signed to replace Cale Yarborough in the Rayner Racing number 28 Ford. He made 23 attempts, qualifying for all the events that they attended to. His best start was 1st 5 times, in the spring at Rockingham, and in the summer at Daytona, Michigan, and Darlington, then at Rockingham in the fall. His best finish was 1st twice, in the spring at Talladega and Dover, leading the most laps both times en route to victory. Though his victory at Talladega was marred a bit by tragedy. His father's scary crash. His father was alright, but on the front stretch, his father flipped up into the front stretch catch fence. Bobby was okay, like I said, but this accident is what triggered NASCAR into putting restrictor plates on the engines at super speedway tracks. So, there's that. The win at Talladega was his first career Cup Series victory. Overall, they scored 5 poles, 2 wins, 9 top 5s, and 10 top 10s, finishing his rookie season in the Cup Series 21st in final Cup Series point standings. Also, he was able to win the Cup Series Rookie of the Year for 1987. Allison returned to Rayner Racing number 28 Havoline Ford in 1988. His best start was 1st 3 times, in the spring at Talladega and Charlotte, then in the fall at Richmond. His best finish was 1st twice, in the summer at Richmond and at Michigan, after leading the most laps. The team ran all 29 races this season, and overall they scored 3 poles, 2 wins, 12 top 5s, and 16 top 10 finishes, finishing the season a solid 8th in final point standings. Otherwise, Davey attempted 11 Busch Series events, qualifying for 10 of them. His best finish was 3rd in the fall at Rockingham. He made all 10 starts driving their number 28 Ford for Allison Racing in the Busch Series. Overall, they scored 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s. In the middle of the 1988 season, Harry Rayner sold his team to his chief engine builder at the time, Robert Yates, forming Robert Yates Racing in the number 28 Texaco Havoline Ford full-time. Bobby Allison, father of Davey, and leader of the famed Alabama gang, would win the Daytona 500, with his son Davey finishing 2nd right behind him. For a father-son 1-2 finish in the season's biggest race. Sadly, Bobby would have a career-ending injury just 14 short races later at Pocono. The 1989 season, Allison once again was full-time in the Cup Series, like I said. His best start was 1st in the fall at Dover, and his best finish was 1st twice, in the spring at Talladega and in the summer at Daytona. Overall, they scored 1 pole, 2 wins, 7 top 5s, and 13 top 10s, ending the 1989 Cup Series season 11th and final point standings. Again, Allison made 10 starts in the Busch Series. His best finish was 5th at Nazareth. Overall, they scored 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s in that number 28 Allison Racing Buick. A new decade, 1990, and Davey Allison had another solid season. His best finish was 1st, twice, in the spring at Bristol and in the fall at Charlotte. Overall, they scored 0 poles, 2 wins, 5 top 5s, and 10 top 10s. They finished the 1990 season 13th in final points. Once again, in the Busch Series, the Allison Racing number 28 team made 10 starts, with Davey behind the wheel. His best start was 1st in the spring at Nazareth. His best finish was 6th, twice, in the spring at Charlotte and in the fall at Rockingham. Overall, they scored 1 pole, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 5 top 10s. The next season, in 1991, is when things really got interesting for Allison in the Cup Series. At the conclusion of race 4, Robert Yates Racing and Suitcase Jake Elder parted ways as he was serving as crew chief for the number 28 team. They brought in Larry McReynolds from the number 26 of King Racing, where he served as crew chief for that team. Allison was able to dominate and win the Winston. He also dominated and won the following week in the Coca-Cola 600. His best start was 1st 3 times, in the Daytona 500 and in the spring at Richmond, then in the fall at Darlington. His best finish was 1st 5 times, in the spring at Charlotte, Sonoma, and Michigan, then in the fall at Phoenix and Rockingham. Overall, they scored 3 poles, 5 wins, 12 top 5s, and 16 top 10s, finishing the 1991 Cup Series season a very strong 3rd and final Cup Series point standings. Davey made 15 Busch Series attempts, qualifying for 14 of them, DNQing in the spring at Darlington. Of course, he was behind the wheel of their Allison Racing number 28 Chevy, or Buick, that raced both of them. His best finish was 3rd in the season opener at Daytona. Overall, they scored 0 poles, 0 wins, 2 top 5s, and 4 top 10s. After his strongest season up to this point in his career in 1991, in 1992, the number 28 Texaco Havoline Ford, Davey Allison, and all of Robert Yates Racing was ready to fight for a Cup Series championship. Allison was able to lead the most laps on his way to his first and only career Daytona 500 victory. With 4 straight top 5 finishes to follow, he remained the point series leader. He had a hard crash at Bristol, leaving him with a bruised shoulder. The team had Jimmy Hensley on hand the following week at North Wilkesboro, but Davey fought through the pain and won the race. Then at Martinsville, he crashed hard again, re-injuring his ribs, but Davey was able to win again the next week at Talladega. Next was the Winston, the All-Star race, nicknamed One Hot Night, because this was the first time that the Winston had ever been run under the lights. In the final 10-lap segment, coming to the finish line for the victory, the number 42, Kyle Petty, and the number 28, Davey Allison, were fighting side by side for the victory. Allison crossed the start-finish line to win, but when he did so, the number 42 and the number 28 got together, sending Davey's car driver's side first into the outside wall. Allison was unconscious and taken to a Charlotte area hospital. He was left with a bruised lung, a concussion, and a very bruised body. Though brave and hungry, Davey Allison didn't even miss one single race due to this, returning the following week to finish 4th in the Coke 600. Over the next 3 races, he finished 11th, 28th, and 5th. He still was the points leader when the series came to Michigan International Speedway. Still leading the points, Allison won the pole, leading over 75% of the laps, and won the race. To finish the season halfway, Davey finished 10th at Daytona in the summer. He remained the point leader through the through the adversity by 46 points over Bill Elliott and 134 points over Alan Kulwicki. When the Cup Series returned to Pocono, he would lose the point lead as he and Darrell Waltrip made contact and Davey lost control of his race car as the two were exiting the tunnel turn. Number 28 Ford flipped over and over and landed on the inside retaining guardrail. Thankfully, Allison survived the accident. He was again airlifted to a local Pocono hospital, and this time with severe concussion, broken arm, broken collarbone, and broken wrist. He finished 33rd and was left 9 points behind Bill Elliott. A determined Allison showed up the next week in Talladega, believe it or not. With eyes so bruised, he wore shades to hide them. A reporter at a press conference asked Allison to see his eyes, and Davey told him straight up, "You can see them, but it's ugly. His arm was in a cast that helped him drive, and his team used Velcro on his glove and on the top of his gear shift to help him shift." Bobby Hillman Jr. he would take over for Davey after the start of the Talladega race. Hillman was able to finish a very, very solid third. The following week, Dorsey Schrader would relieve Allison at Watkins Glen, but could only manage a 20th place finish. After having some time to heal the previous few weeks, Allison was able to run the entire race when the Cup Series returned to Michigan. The family was not prepared for what happened, though. In practice for the Busch Series race at Michigan, Davey's little brother Clifford died in an accident following a very hard crash in turns 3 and 4. Davey would finish 5th in the Cup Series race. The next weekend at Bristol, Allison finished 30th following another crash. He was now 109 points behind the leader, Bill Elliott. Davey's shot at the Winston Million was ended after Darrell Waltrip stayed out, expecting the rain to come and end the race, and it did. Davey finished 5th. To this point, Allison had faded to 119 points behind the leader, Bill Elliott. At Martinsville, Elliott's point lead started to fall apart. Bill finished 30th, while Davey finished 16th. The next week at North Wilkesboro, Allison finished 11th. Elliott had difficult weeks both weeks, finishing outside the top 25 both times. At Charlotte, Davey could only manage a 19th place finish, but Elliott only ended up 30th. The fortunes changed for just one race at Rockingham, where Elliott finished a strong 4th, and Allison a solid 10th. The penultimate race of the season at Phoenix was won by Davey, while Elliott finished a very disappointing 31st, giving Allison the point lead by 30 points, ahead of Alan Kulwicki, and 40 points ahead of a now 3rd place Bill Elliott. So this was the race that decided it all. The 1992 Hooters 500 ran at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Not only would this race be remembered for a championship battle that would have 6 drivers mathematically eligible to win the championship at the beginning of that Atlanta race, but this would also be Jeff Gordon's first career Cup Series race and Richard Petty's final career Cup Series race. Elliott and Kulwicki were fast all race. Allison was caught up in a lap 1 incident when number 1 Rick Mast spun. Davey sustained some damage but remained in the top 10 throughout much of the race. Sadly, on lap 286, after Davey had finally reached the top 5 and was in position to win the championship, when the number 4 Vernie Irvin spun, collecting him, thus ending his championship hopes for 1992. Alan Kulwicki, in the number 7 Hooters Ford ended up winning the 1992 Cup Series championship by 1 point over the number 11 Budweiser Ford of Bill Elliott. Allison would end the 1992 season third in final Cup Series points. Overall, they scored 2 poles, 5 wins, 15 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. Davey did make 7 Busch Series starts for his family Allison Racing's number 28 Ford. His best finish was second in the spring at Bristol. Overall, they scored 3 top 5s and 3 top 10s. Davey also ran IROC for the first time ever in 1992. In the 4-race season, he ran the first 2 races at Daytona and Talladega, winning at Talladega. He was forced to miss the last 2 races of the season due to injury. Then in 1993, the Allison family would suffer yet another tragedy. The number 28 Texaco Havoline Ford of Robert Yates Racing team was prepared to battle for the Cup Series title again in 1993. In the first 16 races, Allison was able to score a victory in the spring at Richmond. To this point, they had scored 0 poles, 1 win, 6 top 5s, and 8 top 10s. In the Busch Series, he made 6 starts in his Allison Racing number 28 Ford. His best finish was 13th at Darlington. He also had made 3 IROC starts, winning at Darlington. He would win the IROC championship posthumously. On July 12, 1993, Allison was flying his newly acquired Hughes 369 HS helicopter to Talladega Superspeedway to watch Neil and his son David Bonnet test a car for David's Busch Series debut. Davey also picked up another family friend, Red Farmer, on his way to the track. Allison attempted to land inside a fenced-in area inside the infield at the Talladega track when the craft all of a sudden nosed up and crashed. Neil Bonnet freed Farmer from the wreckage, but Allison remained stuck until paramedics arrived. Red Farmer was able to recover successfully. Davey was not as lucky, as he sustained critical head injuries. He was pronounced dead at 7 a.m. the next morning at Caraway Methodist Medical Center. So, Davey Allison, a member of the famed Alabama gang, son of the 1983 Cup Series champion, Bobby Allison. A son, a father, a dad. Made 191 Cup Series starts, collecting 14 poles, 19 victories, and 92 top 10 finishes. In the Busch Series, he made 86 starts, collecting 2 poles and 31 top 10 finishes, as well as 2 IROC victories and an IROC championship. 1992 season, not to mention the career Allison would have had if he had not passed away in 1993, is the reason Davey Allison, without a doubt, is one of NASCAR's almost champions. Thanks for watching, and take care.